everyone, this is Sharon. You're listening to Cinema Red Pill, and today's episode we're going to discuss Star Wars, the episode 7, The Force Awakens versus Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And we have mostly 2 versus 2 people who preferred Force Awakens compared to Rogue One. 2 people preferred Force Awakens, the other 2 preferred Rogue One. Then we have a neutral voice in the house. Yes. So I have Timothy.
Present.
Yeah. Joel, the Star Wars t-shirt guy. Nick.
Hey, what's up?
Super opinionated.
Very
His voice.
opinionated.
Then we have the neutral voice. Mark.
No Star Wars t-shirt at the moment.
Sad.
And we're going to have a discussion. It's a subjective thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's subjective in the sense of there's no winner, but
Yeah.
we're going to have objective opinions on this. So we're going to have a discussion and see why the other doesn't like the other movie better. And of course, I'm going to have the Star Wars super fan Joel intro the movie.
Jesus Christ.
And give us the groundwork on how we're going to do this episode. Joel, hit us.
Wait, yeah. First of all, I only have like 2 Star Wars t-shirts.
There's like 6.
Second, for these 2 movies, we're going to break them down into character, plot, and just general overall views at the end. So I'll start with just brief synopses for both movies.
Yes.
So Star Wars: The Force Awakens takes place after Return of the Jedi. Luke has gone missing. Everyone's looking for this map to Luke, and this new junker Rey comes from this desert planet, and she reveals this big destiny and blah blah blah.
Yes.
Star Wars Rogue One is supposed to be a heist. Oh, I'm supposed to be objective. Star Wars Rogue One is a heist movie about it's about the group that stole the Death Star plans that are they're referenced in Star Wars: A New Hope. So it's about the band of rebels that stormed an Imperial tower and stole the plans. EP. So now we'll start the discussion. We're going to start by talking about the characters.
The characters, yes.
Yes. So I'm going to start with Force Awakens first. For Force Awakens, I really love the characters. We had Rey, who was like waiting for his family that had never come. She had been abandoned, and yet she had like this lust for like adventure and experiencing things that were new. We had Finn that was on the run from the First Order. Like I knew what everybody was about. Even Kylo Ren, who is universally hated for some reason. He's a prissy whiny wannabe badass, and to me that was very refreshing. Because the past Star Wars movies, we've had villains that have come as pre-packaged badasses. We've had Darth Vader, we've had Count Dooku, Darth Sidious. They just come, they're intimidating, all powerful. But there's this prissy, whiny kid who wants to be a badass. He wears a mask and tries to act it out. I thought that was super refreshing. And I feel like we're going to see an arc for a villain for the first time, at least, alongside the hero in a Star Wars movie. So even Rey, there's a big criticism around her saying she's a
Mary Sue.
she's a Mary Sue and she's super overpowered. I let it slide for the first movie. Like it made sense in that they hinted that she had this shrouded past and maybe some repressed memories. So episode 8 for me is going to make or break that criticism. But I will allow that they were too afraid of making her weak, which is a fair criticism. They couldn't even let her be saved by her friends that one time when she gets captured on Starkiller Base. She just had to be a perfect badass at everything. So I hope she gets her ass kicked around a little more so we can humanize her. So wow, we haven't talked about Rogue One yet. Shit.
Yeah.
So Rogue One. Let's talk about I'll talk about Felicity Jones mainly. Felicity Jones is a good actress. I saw in Theory of Everything. She's good. She got an Oscar nomination for that. But she's dry as fuck in Rogue One. She's really horrible. It's like George Lucas directed her. It's like the actors in the prequels just
puppet.
this dry, drab, delivery. And we don't know, and even in the story, the way she's written, we don't know what her deal is. Because We don't have like a scene where she's with her dad, maybe teaching her something on the farm. You know, something to cement that bond. No, it's like, oh, this is your father. Now run. Now hide in a hole. Oh, this is your new father. Flashback years later. And then all of a sudden, he was supposed to like have all these prepackaged feels. So there's no build up, but they try to capitalize on those emotional moments without putting the work in. So when she's like complaining with Forrest Whitaker and talking about all this history, I didn't give a fuck. I hadn't seen any kind of relationship between them. And Forrest Whitaker himself is the worst fucking thing about this movie. It's like he was channeling Eddie Redmayne's performance in Jupiter Ascending. You know that hoarse fucking voice? Stop them! It's like, I didn't know whether it was supposed to laugh or to feel bad, whether it was a tragic character, it was supposed to be humorous. But it was butchered completely, and there was no reason he even needed to be in there. The only standout characters for me were Katie Winslet, the robot, had the most humanity. For a movie full of humans, had the most humanity in the story. I knew he cared for his captain, and he was sacrificing on his behalf. Same thing with Chirrut Imwe, played by, Donnie Yen. Mm-hmm. That was also a good character. He was like guardian of the whales and all this shit, but it still didn't make sense for me, for all the characters as a whole, why they jumped on this bandwagon to like sacrifice themselves and go on this suicide mission. We'll get into all that stuff with the tone later, but overall I think as far as characters go, specifically Force Awakens kicked Rogue One's ass. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm on Joel's side on this episode. I really preferred Force Awakens characters compared to Rogue One's. And one thing you'll notice on both sides is a female lead. Yeah. On both sides. And compared to, what's the Force Awakens chick's name?
Daisy Ridley.
Daisy Ridley. They give us, there's this montage where we get to see her in her daily life. Yeah. It really gives you, they spend so much time on that scene.
Very good setup.
It's such a good setup. You feel like you know this character, and then she interacts with the other characters. It gives this film a basis on who she is. All the way you go through it, even though she becomes a Mary Sue, I agree with that thing. Yeah. I agree with that thing. She does become a Mary Sue. She gets this Jedi power way too fast. They don't explain it.
Yeah.
I hope they get to explain it in episode 8.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But it really gives you, and then they give even Finn, the black guy's character. They give him this basis of he betrays the whole
First Order.
Yes, the First Order, and you feel his shit all through, and then the humor in this was a big point, and it worked throughout.
Yeah.
Throughout, we had BB-8. Even the characters themselves, Daisy Ridley and Finn, were humorous all the way through. It made this thing a whole entertaining thing overall, which really worked for me. Now, when it came to Rogue One, we got Felicity Jones as Jyn.
Yeah.
She was the worst character I've ever seen. I embrace female characters as much as I possibly could, but that chick did not work for me in any way.
Yeah.
She was cold, and not in a way that you'd even have a basis on why she's that cold.
Yeah.
She comes into this place. They give us some basis with her father, her interaction with her father. But no, she's just in a hole, and she comes out of the hole. She meets her mentor, supposed mentor.
Yeah.
We never see her interact with Forrest Whitaker, who's supposed to be the guy who raised her, and we're supposed to give a shit when she meets him. I gave no shits. I felt no emotions whatsoever. When certain characters died, I felt absolutely nothing. So that's a very loud way you can see that there was no characterization for me in the way I viewed it. So it wasn't effective for me in that way. There's some things that really worked for Rogue One.
Yeah.
But when it comes to character, it was not effective, even to the small point of the robot's character with the Mexican guy.
Cassian,
With Cassian. I did not even feel that chemistry. Yet with BB-8, when he was with Poe, they were separate most of the time, but you could feel his affection towards Poe. Just in the minimalist thing like his jacket. You could those things actually worked, and you could feel the chemistry between them, like he actually gave a shit about his master.
Yeah.
Here, the interaction was actually so plain and so withdrawn. I could not feel like this was a guy who has been this much time with a robot and has had that affection.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get a different opinion. Let's start with Timothy.
No, there are some things I'll agree with you guys on. The whole aspect of like this movie being a bit drab, and the humor wasn't as much as The Force Awakens. I agree with those very much. But I actually believe that Rogue One, if we look at them as two individual movies, without even this whole mythology included, they are very. Rogue One is a better movie.
Let's first talk about
character.
Yeah.
I believe. Okay, let me start from the very first scenes where we begin this story from, and you get into the whole movie and everything.
Yeah.
They both begin with scenes of someone being killed by the Empire.
Yeah.
The first one, let me begin with The Force Awakens, which came out before. The Force Awakens begins with Kylo Ren on this. Which one was it again? I'm forgetting. But then they kill this elder, this elder, Laz Swanteka. I only know the guy from like Igmar Bergman movies, that Max von Sydow guy.
Yeah, Max von Sydow.
I know him from there, and I saw like comparing the way they brought, not compared to Rogue One, whereby they're killing a girl's father, and where this Kylo Ren guy is just venting his anger at failing to find the map to the Luke Skywalker. I feel the motivations for you to begin the story and get into it, I feel Jyn Erso had more motivation than Finn. First of all, in the beginning, he just has this shift of like his consciousness, like he's like, I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
There's no reason, like they don't show any backstory what supports it. In the beginning, he just loses guts. Like, I should just change. go and join the resistance. Let me fuck this stormtrooper whole thing.
Yeah.
Like I feel from the beginning there, like characterization, I feel they gave Jyn Erso more reason to fight. Like again, you feel like the two villains. What's the character of Ben Mendelsohn? What's his name?
Mads Mikkelsen.
No, Ben Mendelsohn.
Oh, Ben Mendelsohn.
The main guy who comes for this guy's dad.
His name
this chick's dad.
Krennic.
Krennic. Comparing Krennic and Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
In those two, like even just the villains, chill the main character's motivations. I understand Krennic's motivations more. Kylo Ren had just come for a map. Like it was just contrived. It was contrived. Like the movie begins with him looking for Luke Skywalker. Imagine that's how much they are tied into the previous Star Wars, the whole Star Wars mythology. The guy is just looking for Luke Skywalker. This other guy in there is trying to build the Death Star. He gets the baddest scientist and forces him to come and build the Death Star by killing his daughter, all that shit. So I feel again the villains in that point, again, Ben, you say Krennic had more motivation. Like I was drawn more into the story by this Rogue One, the chick losing her dad, this guy, the villain, who wants to build his Death Star, than just some guy having an existential fit of like, he's like, man, I think I should chill this shit. And this guy, because of his temper, just killing some other elder of the... some elder Jedi, something like that. So, K2SO had more impact than BB-8 was there for just the whole dramatic thing. He's Dameron Poe's co-pilot. Then from there he comes to now being like Daisy Ridley's sidekick. He follows her along this whole journey, all that nonsense. For me, I feel that K2SO was directly invested in this Poe's adventure. Cassian and Jyn. He was, even in the end, that there's that scene where they get involved in like some way he locks the doors. I feel he actually fought more for the rebellion than BB-8.
Okay.
Yes. So explain that. And you explain how BB-8 was better than K2SO in this movie.
Let's first hear Nick's opinion on this.
Alright, so full disclosure, I freaking hate Star Wars. I wish you would just die already. But so naturally, logically, I hated these two movies.
Hey.
But between the two of them, I prefer Rogue One. So full disclosure, we'll talk about the characters. I preferred the character design of Rogue One in general. Although the main character Rey from Force Awakens had a more memorable.
It's memorable, exactly.
Force Awakens had the advantage that it had its soundtrack done by the legend
John Williams.
Yeah. So Rey had her own little ditty that they play whenever she comes on. She had all these advantages and still somehow managed to be vapid. Anyway, that's Rey. Talk about Jyn. I'll agree with these guys as far as her being a little bland. Yeah, she was pretty bland. She didn't have much to say most of the time, and I feel it was a waste of this actress's skill. However, I understood her motivations more than I did Rey.
Yeah.
Let's keep in mind, Rey is just a person on a planet, and
Yeah.
one day someone came up and told her
She
you have
flies
to
the
do a
plane
thing,
up.
and she did a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. This other girl had her dad killed by
And
these
whole
assholes.
history. Exactly.
She was raised by a revolutionary. They didn't show the raising, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But she was raised by a revolutionary.
Yeah.
In Force Awakens, their characters didn't seem to be going through shit. Like if I was Finn, if I just stayed on the dark side, it's a pretty cool gig. I got great pension. These guys just give me guns and shit.
Even
My
if
job
he
security
hid.
is
Even if he hid.
Yeah.
And could have hid.
Yeah. Okay. And then Finn suddenly has this like Chesh mentioned, an existential crisis that's not really explained. He just kind of switches. Every character within Rogue One, although I'll be the first to admit it wasn't the best illustrated, had actual reasons for hating the Empire. From Kung Fu guy, what's his name?
Donnie
Yen and his sidekick, the machine gun. Jiang Wen, who are left without purpose after the temple is destroyed. You can get that. To Jenna, so I'm really bad at names, my god. Now let's finally get to K2SO, who plays
The sidekick.
alright, along with the Mexican guy. K2SO is the humor relief of this movie. And in that sense, he works well as a sidekick, because that's what sidekicks do. You make some jokes, you do well. Joel even admitted he was pretty good.
Yeah.
Comparing with BB-8, like I said, glorified Maltese Falcon, no lines, R2-D2 ripoff. I could go on. Toy cells. That's what BB-8 was. Okay, I mean, yeah. Let's not kid ourselves. Plus, K2SO had the added advantage of having actual existential problems. Like he was a reprogrammed Empire droid, and he kept mentioning it like, you guys, are you going to would you have shot me if you didn't know that was me?
Mark, let's hear your opinion
Alright,
on Force
so-
Awakens.
I start with what happened to my lightsaber fight scenes. I mean, I'd imagine those lightsabers are like iconic for they are actually a character to Star Wars, right?
Yeah, correct.
You remember that
Iconography.
you've seen that one scene where Dooku fights with
Yoda.
So Yoda comes in as this old guy, and then he looks like he's dying until he drops that stick, and this little
all
guy
over the
is
place.
flying all over the room with that lightsaber. You get why this guy is Master Yoda. You're like, my god. So now you have these two movies and this fight choreography for the lightsabers, something that is so iconic to their brand, has totally been downplayed and ignored.
Yeah.
Completely tossed out. Why? I mean, even when you put in, even if you're going to give me Donnie, I expect you to kill me with a lightsaber fight scene, because that guy, even in Ip Man, when he was dispensing an ass whooping, he dispenses it without remorse. Alright? So when I see that, I am like, wow, you have downplayed that scene, and I really did want those. And then, you see that with Finn and his master, the pilot, am I the only one who feels like they cut out some scenes in post-production?
They did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they did.
that story there was, when he
There
keeps
was
explaining
nothing.
what happens, he explains it like in 4 sentences, but I feel like they cut something in post-production. There was really supposed to have been something I should have watched to that point. Alright?
Yeah,
So
there is.
that for me, that was a real peeve.
Joel,
Yeah.
could you set us up for the next round we're doing?
Yeah, for story.
The blood.
Okay, so I'll start again with Force Awakens. So yeah, Force Awakens was a massive retreat of A New Hope.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about story now,
Yes.
plot and story structure. It was a massive fucking retreat. I've watched it about 7 times now, which is enough for me to get off of the whole fan thing. It is beat for beat. I watched it back to back with A New Hope. It is beat for beat with that, and also takes a few stuff from Jedi and New Hope. Yes, I was, but like where I am at with that whole plot retreat thing is I forgave them this one time for that. It's bullshit, I agree, but I forgave them. Now with Rogue One, I was offended by the nostalgia moments in it because the story for me absolutely failed. Rogue One is confusing because it did take a chance. It wanted to do a dark Star Wars movie, which hasn't yet quite been done. Empire for me is one of the best fucking movies of all time. It rode that line between goofy and dark perfectly well. But when it came to Rogue One, he wanted to go full on dark, do this gritty war movie, but for me he failed completely. It's like on the one hand he had a heist movie, on the other hand he wanted to do like a war movie. And for me I pretty much slept through like the first and second act, like they didn't really matter. Once the third act kicked in and like there was that big battle on the beach and like the space battle, that was beautifully short compared to Force Awakens. Force Awakens was a clusterfuck. When it came to the space battle, the trench run, I always switch out when that comes on. You can't quite follow what's going on. All these ships going here and here. But Gareth Edwards lets you follow one ship at a time in Rogue One. You know exactly what's happening. He has this cool worm's eye shit, like you know the Death Star hitting a planet. And the AT-AT is like fucking guys up on the ground. We had like space marines. He's great at shooting action, but I think he sucks at shooting like actors and directors. Like the only other movie of his that I've watched anyway is Godzilla. And in Godzilla, he had like the sequences of Godzilla were fucking epic.
Yeah.
But the characters and the human story was
Have you seen Monsters?
No, I haven't seen. That's why I've only seen Godzilla so far. Yeah. But like, anyway, just basing off of Godzilla alone, he seems to sort of be bored with the whole plot building aspect. It's like he can't wait to get to like the action bit and just do that. And for me, he excelled at that. So on the one hand, for Rogue One, I admire it for taking a shot, but I feel that it fucking failed because I felt nothing. We didn't have any of those big character moments like suck us into that last battle and say, yeah, this story is awesome, it's memorable. But it just ends and you have the Kevin Costner thing in Man of Steel, people dying in clouds, and you're like, okay, I don't care. So for me, Rogue One, while it took chances, I can respect it for taking chances, I still preferred the plot retreat this time around. But again, episode 8 will determine how I feel about retreating that plot in the future.
Okay, when it comes to the plot, both these movies felt like a nostalgia trip. They were both a nostalgia trip. But I'm going to, I don't know if it's a cheat, but I'll say the way Rogue One was marketed. It was marketed as a solo, a standalone, that's a better word for it, a standalone Star Wars movie. And they sold it so hard, I really thought this was not going to tie into anything Star Wars, but it was painfully tied into. The ending sequences to this film were very what the fuck. And the way they brought up this, there were some CGI characters that came into Rogue One that really bugged me. They were really trying to tie into the whole Star Wars story as a whole. Now, Force Awakens was a full-on nostalgia trick. The way Joel talked about it, like it was bringing up member berries, like the way South Park talks about it, just making you remember this, remember the Millennium Falcon, like remember this, remember Han Solo, remember Leia. It was a lot of that when it came to story and things that didn't even add up. And Rogue One did the same thing and it was just irritating. I think it was a trip of where it's the second thing that comes up and you're like, why are you doing this again? Yeah. You should have done this just one time, but they did it twice and that bugged the fuck out of me. When it comes to story, I like the whole war factor of it. It felt very Saving Private Ryan for me. Mm-hmm. It was a real war film. There were very many scenes that were full on war and were super cool. There was a prolonged scene when they really get into the heisty type of thing, that was super cool, and you'd really feel the sense of they're actually trying to get into something. Another thing with story is there was a lot of what do we call it when they're setting up a story? Exposition. Oh my god, there was a lot of exposition in Rogue One, and the exposition actually bored me. Anyway, Timothy, get down with it. Why did you like that story?
No, like I agree with a lot of the stuff you guys have said, but then for me, I thought the best thing about Rogue One unlike Force Awakens, was the way they examined this, like, you know how Star Wars has always been about the good side, the good and the dark side.
Yeah.
This other one explores, like, you know, all that other. Cassian Endo isn't an inherently good character.
Yeah.
You know, if it's something with Genius, isn't like a good person, like, you know, the hero of the story. Like the people who have those flawed
Shades
parts.
of grey.
Yeah. So I feel like, as far as the story goes, like, I feel they explore that middle ground, like in that part whereby this guy is actually supposed to kill Jean's dad. Spoiler. Like, I feel that was all good. Like, it gives the characters that other dimension. It's not just stuff of they're heroes, they're doing this. Another thing was like the whole sequences, the whole action sequences. Like, I felt like there was real danger in Rogue One. Like, people were dying. Jin's dad, during when the thing is come, he dies off immediately. Like, there's this other whole thing of like stormtroopers were a bit like, you know, this GI, this is what I call the Cobra's guys in GI. Like, they're just missing. In Rogue One, these guys were hurting people seriously. It wasn't like a waste of action. So I felt there was that dramatic tension. Like, you can't bat your eyelids because someone may die, someone may. Most of the main guys, even the supporting guys, are. Look at the Chinese guys. Those guys all passed away in the movie. I felt that was better. It was like an addition to the whole Star Wars thing. It wasn't just stormtroopers shooting random lasers. There was this inherent danger. Like, this is war. You will feel the cost of war on these characters as they go through this movie. So for me, that was something that was very strong about this plot compared to the Force Awakens, whereby all these set pieces were geared to sort of give us that thrill. When there's this creature inside there, the Millennium Falcon, like there's all this running around, dodging, doing what?
But no one's going there.
Like, it doesn't lead to anything that makes you feel something about it. It's just there for entertainment. So for me, I feel as far as plot goes, I have those two. I'll stop at that.
Nick, what's your say?
Most of what I'm going to say has already been said by these guys because these are clever people. Anyway, like Joel mentioned, Force Awakens is a rehash, but I don't think it was just a rehash of New Hope. I think it was more like a Star Wars greatest hits. You know, they got all the best scenes from all the original trilogy and they slapped them in there. You know, the killing of the dad on the thing on the ramp.
Yeah, on the ramp.
Yeah, you know, you've got the Darth Vader fight. You've got everything it was just a.
It was developed by marketing department.
Exactly, it was developed.
Disney's marketing department.
It was developed by a marketing department, not a writer.
Yeah.
This wasn't a plot. This was targeted marketing. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to say about Force Awakens plot. So-called plot. Anyway, Rogue One's plot, of course, is flawed. Like I've mentioned, I have beef with Star Wars, but where I think it worked, most of the points Tesha has already made, it walked that line. Most of its characters were shades of grey. They were doing something they believed was right, like something. What's the word? A redemption quest, sort of. So much so that even a droid was factored into that. I thought that was it was a nice thing to do. It was cute. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. The sacrifice at the end, I agree 100% with what Joel said and what Sharon said. I didn't care when those guys died, but just so you know, they killed Han Solo, one of the most iconic characters of Star Wars. They killed Han Solo in Force Awakens, and I didn't give a fuck. So tell me which one's worse. You tell me.
Okay. Mark, let's hear your opinion on how a story should go. Yeah.
Their story. The Jedi, I feel like they didn't really say enough about them because the Jedi were always the badasses. In everything, they were always the badasses, and then they kind of just disappear.
Yeah.
They just disappear. Like you remember my peeve with the lightsabers?
Yeah.
The Jedi have just
Besides Donnie,
completely
there's nothing
gone.
else about Jedi.
Yeah, and even Donnie.
He doesn't even do it that
his
well.
fight scene, I feel like he should have really kicked ass. Yeah, he really. I mean, if Disney money is going to come into it, that guy should have kicked more ass than Ip Man. He should have had a body count. That was unbelievable. Now, that was one of. But as far as the plot goes, for me again, it's still mainly that post-production cut with Finn and his master. That hole, that huge hole just killed me. That huge hole just killed me. They like cut. I don't know how many scenes they had to cut for him to squeeze it into just one explanation. For him to squeeze it into one explanation, I don't know how many scenes they cut for that to be. That is a huge hole. It's a pretty big hole, a pretty big noticeable hole in the plot. Yeah, it's a big gaping hole in that plot. I feel like they should really have found a way around that.
Okay, finish.
Round
it off.
Yes,
Joel,
yes.
round it off for us.
Yeah. No, just my one biggest gripe with Rogue One is that it's supposed to be a Star Wars standalone story. For I understand for like the main saga, like the main trilogies, because Star Wars has been repeating the same beats even in the prequels and the originals. That's a main saga. Yeah. But with a standalone, this is somewhere where they can really take chances and just do whatever the fuck they want. But they wind up doing the same fucking things. They do not take advantage of being a fully original movie.
The weird thing was that even as reading, like before this episode, I was reading about how these guys came up with the ideas. Yeah. They came up with this, they had these weird questions about how come the stormtroopers never hit anyone. And why does in Empire Strikes Back, why do these guys go and blow up the Death Star that easy? Like they just one shot and the Death Star is done. So they built back on that, So I feel like obviously it has to be tied in some way to the original thing. Yeah. But they try and present different characters in different situations, trying to fight for the same goal. And I feel they achieved that, honestly.
Okay. Could we be done now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for listening. This has been Cinema Red Pill. I'm Sharon. I've been with Timothy, the opposer, the Rogue One supporter. Number one.
Timothy Asso.
Yes. I've been with Joel, the Super Force Awakens. I love Force Awakens. I have a t-shirt.
Super is a big word.
You're super. Nick.
Generally,
You just make us
Hater International. Hater International.
He's a heel.
The person who brings
character,
up all the
Embrace
arguments. Nick is here. Oh, Mark, thanks for coming, Mark. The voice of reason. And me, the host. Thanks for listening. This is Cinema Red Pill. Email me at Sharon@cinemaredpill.com if you agree or disagree with our views. Bye.